My name is Victoria Mendez, and I'm 41 years old. 7 years ago, my husband died in a car accident on the Pacific Coast Highway. I identified his body. I buried him. I wore black for a year. Then last month, I was presiding over a custody hearing as a family court judge when the courtroom doors opened and a man walked in to testify. Our eyes met across that mahogany bench, and in that single, impossible moment, I watched my dead husband's face go white as he realized the judge about to hear his case was the wife who'd mourned him for 7 years. Before we get into this, I need you to understand something. This isn't a story about a miracle. This is a story about a lie so perfect, so complete, that it fooled the police, the coroner, the insurance company, and me. And when the truth finally surfaced, it didn't come wrapped in apologies. It came in a courtroom, under oath, with a bailiff standing 6 feet away and my gavel in my hand. Let me take you back to September 2017, to a cliffside highway in Malibu, and the night that split my life into before and after. I was 34 years old, married to Daniel Reeves for 8 years. Dandy. Everyone called him Danny. Venture capitalist, Stanford MBA, the kind of man who wore expensive watches and cheaper smiles. Charismatic in that California way. All white teeth and weekend surfing and networking brunches in Venice Beach. We lived in Brentwood. Nice house, nice cars, nice life. On paper, we were golden. Behind closed doors, we were strangers who'd stopped pretending to be anything else about 3 years in. The marriage wasn't abusive. It wasn't dramatic. It was just hollow. Two people who'd met at a charity gala, gotten engaged on a yacht, and woke up married to someone they'd never actually known. I was in my second year as a deputy district attorney, working violent crimes, 70-hour weeks. Danny was raising his third round of funding for a tech startup that promised to revolutionize something I never fully understood. We had dinner together, maybe twice a week. We had conversations maybe twice a month. But divorce felt like failure. And neither of us had ever failed at anything in our lives. So we stayed. Parallel lines in the same expensive house. September 15th, 2017. A Friday night. Danny kissed me on the forehead before he left, which was unusual. He'd been in therapy, he said, working on himself, trying to be more present. I'm driving up to Santa Barbara for a pitch meeting tomorrow morning, he said. Staying overnight at the Ritz. I'll be back Sunday. I was buried in case files for a murder trial starting Monday. I barely looked up. Drive safe, I said. Those were the last words I ever spoke to my husband. At 11:47 p.m., the California Highway Patrol called my cell phone. Mrs. Reeves? This is Officer Delgado, with the CHP. There's been an accident on PCH near Point de May. A vehicle registered to Daniel Reeves went over the embankment. We need you to come to County USC Medical Center. I remember driving to the hospital in complete silence. No radio. No thoughts. Just the 405 South at midnight. Brake lights stretching to infinity. The doctor met me in the hallway outside the ER. I'm Dr. Patel. I'm so sorry, Mrs. Reeves. Your husband sustained catastrophic injuries in the crash. We did everything we could. They took me to a room. White walls. White floors. White sheet pulled up to his chest. The face was destroyed. Burns, lacerations, swelling. The crash had been bad. Fire involved. The car had gone through the guardrail, rolled 3 times down a rocky embankment, and burst into flames. But I recognized the body. 6'1". The build. The hands. The wedding ring on the left hand. Our inscription inside. V&D, forever started, June 2009. That ring. I'd put it on his finger myself. They asked me to formally identify him. I looked at the ring. Looked at the body. Looked at the doctor. Yes. That's my husband. That's Daniel Reeves. I signed the paperwork at 2:30 in the morning. The funeral was the following Saturday. 200 people. Danny's parents flew in from Connecticut. His business partners gave eulogies about vision and legacy. I stood at the front of that chapel in a black dress I'd bought the day before and said words I'd written on autopilot. Danny was complicated. He was ambitious. He was trying to become the man he wanted to be. He didn't get the chance to finish that journey. I meant every word. I also felt nothing. They lowered the casket into the ground at Forest Lawn. I threw dirt on the lid. The sound it made, that hollow thump, has lived in my head every day since. 6 weeks later, the life insurance paid out. $2.3 million. Danny had increased the policy 2 years earlier, when he'd started the company. Smart financial planning, his advisor had said. I put the money in a trust. I didn't touch it. It felt like blood money even though there was no blood. Just a car crash and a body and a ring I recognized. I went back to work. Threw myself into trial prep, plea deals, victim advocacy. I stopped going to grief counseling after 4 sessions because talking about Danny felt like lying. How do you mourn someone you'd stopped knowing years before they died? But I wore my wedding ring for a full year. And when I finally took it off, I didn't date. I didn't even consider it. I'd been married to a dead man. That status felt safer than risking another hollow partnership. 2 years after Danny died, I left the DA's office and went into private practice. Family law, divorce, custody, domestic cases. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd stayed in a dead marriage out of fear, and now I was helping other people escape theirs. I was good at it. Better than good. I had a 90% success rate in custody negotiations and a reputation for being fair but unyielding. Judges liked me. Opposing counsel respected me, even when I beat them. In 2021, I applied for a vacant judgeship in Los Angeles County Superior Court, Family Law Division. The governor appointed me in December. At 38 years old, I became Judge Victoria Mendez. The swearing-in ceremony was at the courthouse. My parents were there. My younger brother flew in from Austin. Danny's parents sent flowers with a card that said, "Danny would be so proud." I put the card in my desk drawer and never looked at it again. For 3 years, I presided over custody battles, divorce settlements, child support disputes. I saw the worst of what happens when marriages end badly. And every single case reminded me how lucky I'd been that mine had ended cleanly. Tragically, but cleanly. No lawyers. No fighting. No drawn-out battle over who got the house. Just a crash, a body, and a widow who moved on because there was nothing else to do. Until last month. January 14th, 2025. Tuesday morning. 9 a.m. calendar call. I walked into Courtroom 7, black robe, coffee in hand, ready for a standard day of back-to-back hearings. My clerk, Denise, handed me the docket. 12 cases. Mostly modifications, a couple of restraining order hearings, one custody dispute that had been continued 3 times already. Reeves versus Harmon. Custody modification. Petitioner, Daniel Reeves. I stopped walking. Denise looked up. "Judge? You okay?" I stared at the name. Daniel Reeves. Common name. Los Angeles is a big city. Thousands of Daniel Reeveses. "Fine," I said. "Just need a minute." I sat in my chambers and pulled up the case file on the computer. Petitioner, Daniel James Reeves. DOB, March 8, 1983. My husband's birthday. Respondent, Melissa Harmon. Minor child, Olivia Reeves, age 6. I scrolled down. Employment, managing partner, Horizon Ventures LLC, San Diego. My chest tightened. I kept scrolling. Previous address, San Diego, California. Before that, Phoenix, Arizona. Before that, Portland, Oregon. No mention of Los Angeles. No mention of Brentwood. No mention of a dead wife. I opened the attachment, driver's license photocopy, submitted as part of the initial filing. And there he was. Older. Grayer at the temples. Different glasses. Beard now neatly trimmed. But the eyes. The jawline. The small scar above his left eyebrow from a surfing accident in college. Daniel Reeves. My husband. Alive till I sat at my desk for 5 full minutes. The coffee went cold in my hand. Outside my chambers, I could hear Denise calling the first case. I should have recused myself immediately. That's the rule. Personal conflict. Step aside. Assign the case to another judge. But I didn't. I stood up, straightened my robe, walked into that courtroom, and took the bench. All rise. Department 7 of the Los Angeles County Superior Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Victoria Mendez presiding. I looked out at the gallery. About 15 people scattered across the benches. Lawyers at the tables up front, reviewing notes, whispering to clients. And there, 3rd row, sitting alone, was Danny. He was scrolling through his phone, oblivious. He hadn't looked up yet. Calling case number FL 2024-09847, Reeves versus Harmon. A woman stood up at the respondent's table. Mid-30s, blonde, tired-looking. Her attorney, a man in an ill-fitting suit, stood beside her. And then Danny stood. He walked toward the petitioner's table. His attorney, a sharp-looking woman in her 40s, was already there, organizing files. Danny still hadn't looked at the bench. "Appearances, please," I said. My voice was steady. "Years of courtroom practice will do that. You learn to bury everything under procedure." The respondent's attorney went first. "James Chun for Melissa Harmon, Your Honor." Then Danny's attorney. "Patricia Vance for the petitioner, Daniel Reeves." "And is Mr. Reeves present?" Patricia gestured. "Yes, Your Honor. He's here to testify if needed." "Mr. Reeves, please step forward." Danny walked to the podium. He still hadn't looked up. He was pulling papers from a folder, distracted. "State your full name for the record." "Daniel James Reeves." His voice. 7 years, and I still knew that voice. "And you're the petitioner in this custody modification case?" "Yes, Your Honor." He looked up. Our eyes met. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. Watched his hand freeze mid-reach for the folder. Watched his mouth open slightly, then close. He knew. I kept my expression neutral. Judicial. A mask I'd perfected over 3 years on the bench. "Mr. Reeves, are you all right? Do you need a moment?" His attorney glanced at him, confused. "Daniel?" He blinked. Swallowed. Yes, Your Honor. I'm fine." "Good. Ms. Vance, you may proceed with your opening statement." For the next 45 minutes, I sat on that bench and listened to my dead husband request joint custody of a 6-year-old daughter I didn't know existed with a woman I'd never heard of. Patricia laid it out cleanly. Daniel and Melissa had met in Phoenix in 2018. Never married, but lived together for 3 years. Olivia was born in 2019. They split in 2022. Melissa moved to LA with Olivia. Daniel, who'd been building his business in San Diego, was requesting a modification to the custody order to allow for more parenting time now that his work had stabilized. Standard case. I'd heard 1,000 versions of it. Except the man at the petitioner's table had been buried in Forest Lawn in 2017. Danny didn't testify that day. His attorney presented financial documents, a parenting plan, character references. Melissa's attorney countered with concerns about stability and Daniel's work travel. I asked questions, took notes, gave both sides time to argue, and I never once broke character. At 11:30, I called a recess. "We'll reconvene at 2 p.m. for witness testimony. Court is in recess." I walked into my chambers, closed the door, sat down at my desk, and stared at the wall. Denise knocked softly. "Judge, are you okay? You look pale." "I'm fine. Can you bring me the Reeves file?" "All of it. Initial petition, financial disclosures, everything." She hesitated. "Sure. But Judge, if there's a conflict." "There's no conflict," I said. Too fast. Too sharp. Denise left. Came back 10 minutes later with a banker's box. "The whole case file. Do you need anything else?" "Close the door on your way out." I went through everything. The petition was filed in August 2024. Daniel listed his SSN, his employment history, his address in San Diego. Different social security number than the one I remembered. Different employment history. No mention of Stanford. No mention of venture capital in Los Angeles. No mention of a wife who'd buried him. He'd built an entire identity. And then I found it. Buried in the financial disclosures, a section on assets. Previous name, David Matthews. Legal name change, February 2018, Maricopa County, Arizona. Reason, personal. David Matthews. Not Daniel Reeves. I sat back in my chair. He'd changed his name. Changed his social security number, probably with fraudulent documents. Started over. Which meant the body I'd identified in 2017 wasn't Danny. It was someone else. I picked up my phone. Put it down. Picked it up again. I could call the police right now. Report this. Fraud. Identity theft. Insurance fraud if he'd been involved in staging his own death. But I didn't. Because I needed to know why. At 2 p.m., I walked back into the courtroom. Calling case Reeves versus Harmon. "Mr. Reeves, you're first on the witness list. Please take the stand." He stood slowly. Walked to the witness box. The bailiff swore him in. "Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?" Danny looked at me. "I do." Lie number 1. Patricia took him through the basics. Where he lived. What he did for work, his relationship with Olivia, his parenting plan. He answered everything calmly. Professionally. I took notes. Let the attorneys do their jobs. Then it was time for cross-examination. James' chin stood up. Mr. Reeves, you stated that you've lived in San Diego since 2022. Is that correct? Yes. And before that, you were in Phoenix? Yes. And before Phoenix? Danny hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. Portland. How long were you in Portland? About a year. And before Portland? Patricia stood. Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. I looked at James. Counselor. Your Honor, I'm establishing a pattern of relocation that's relevant to the stability analysis in this custody matter. I nodded. I'll allow it. Mr. Reeves, please answer the question. Danny shifted in his chair. I moved around a lot between 2017 and 2018. Seattle, briefly. Portland, then Phoenix. And where were you before 2017? Silence. Mr. Reeves. He looked at me. Not at James. At me. Los Angeles, he said quietly. And what brought you to Los Angeles? Work. What kind of work? I was in venture capital. Were you married at that time? Patricia stood again. Objection. This is far beyond the scope of. Your Honor, James interrupted. The petitioner has submitted character references that describe him as a devoted father and stable individual. I'm entitled to explore his background to assess that claim. I should have sustained the objection. Should have shut it down. Instead, I said, overruled. Mr. Reeves, answer the question. Danny's jaw tightened. Yes, I was married. What happened to that marriage? It ended. Divorce. He looked down at his hands. No. Then how did it end, Mr. Reeves? The courtroom was silent. Melissa was leaning forward, confused. Patricia was scribbling notes, clearly blindsided. Danny looked up at me again. Held my gaze. I left. 2 words. The truth, finally. James pressed. You left your wife. Yes. Did you tell her you were leaving? No. Did she know you were alive? Patricia was on her feet. Objection. Your Honor, this is completely. I held up my hand. Sit down, Ms. Vance. She sat. I leaned forward. Mr. Reeves, did your wife believe you were dead? He closed his eyes. Opened them. Yes. The courtroom erupted. Melissa gasped. Her attorney turned to stare at Danny. Patricia was furiously whispering to her client. I banged the gavel once. Order. The room went quiet. Mr. Reeves, are you telling this court that you faked your own death? No, Your Honor. Then what are you telling me? He took a breath. I didn't fake my death. Someone else died in that crash, but I let people believe it was me. Why? Because I wanted to disappear. I sat back in my chair. Every instinct told me to recuse myself now, to declare a mistrial, to get out of this room before I did something that would end my career. But I didn't move. Explain, I said. Patricia stood again. Your Honor, I need to request a recess to consult with my client. This testimony is denied. Mr. Reeves, explain. Danny looked at me. Not at James. Not at Patricia. At me. I was drowning, he said. In debt. In expectations. In a life I didn't recognize. I'd made bad investments. The company was failing. I owed people money. Dangerous people. He paused. I was driving up to Santa Barbara that night. I stopped at a rest area on PCH. There was a guy there. Homeless. Maybe my age, my build. He asked me for money. I gave him $50. We talked for a while. He said he had nothing. No family. No one who'd miss him. Jesus Christ, Melissa whispered. Danny didn't stop. I told him he could sleep in my car if he wanted. It was cold. I gave him the keys. Told him to bring it back in the morning. And I said. And I walked to a motel a mile up the road. Paid cash. Planned to pick up the car the next day and keep driving. But at 11:30 that night, the CHP called the motel asking if anyone had seen a man matching my description. There'd been a crash. A car with my plates. A body burned beyond recognition. The room was silent. I panicked, Danny said. I thought about coming forward. But then I realized no one would believe me. It would look like I'd killed him and staged it. And even if they did believe me, I'd still be buried under the debt, the threats, the life I couldn't handle. So you ran, I said. So I ran. I leaned forward. And the body? The man in your car? I don't know his name. I never asked. He died in the crash. And I let my wife bury him. Melissa stood up. I'm done. I'm done with this. James, I want full custody. I want him nowhere near Olivia. Patricia was packing her briefcase. Your Honor, I need to withdraw from this case. I can't. Sit down, I said. All of you, sit down. They sat. I looked at Danny. Mr. Reeves, or Matthews, or whoever you are. Do you know who I am? He nodded. Yes. Say it. You're Victoria. You're my wife. The bailiff's hand went to his radio. Denise stood up in the corner, eyes wide. I took off my glasses. Set them on the bench. 7 years, I said. I mourned you for 7 years. I identified a body that wasn't you. I buried a stranger. I wore black. I cried at your funeral. Your parents cried. Do you understand what you did? His eyes were wet. Yes. Do you understand that what you did is fraud? That you collected life insurance under false pretenses? That you stole someone's identity? Yes. Do you understand that I could have you arrested right now? Yes. I picked up my gavel. Put it down. This court is in recess. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Reeves to a holding room. Counsel, my chambers. Now. I stood, walked off the bench, went into my chambers and closed the door. 30 seconds later, Patricia and James walked in. Judge, Patricia started. Stop. Both of you sit down. They sat. I paced. I'm recusing myself from this case, effective immediately. It will be reassigned to Judge Howell. You will both file amended motions within 48 hours. Patricia, you're going to withdraw, and your client is going to find new representation. James, you're going to file for emergency full custody on behalf of your client, and you're going to win. Patricia opened her mouth, closed it. Judge, are you going to report him? I stopped pacing. That's not your concern. With respect, Your Honor, it is. If you're recusing based on a personal relationship, there are disclosure requirements. I said, that's not your concern. Get out. Both of you. They left. I sat at my desk and stared at the door for 20 minutes. Then I stood up, took off my robe, and walked down to the holding room. The bailiff looked surprised. Judge. 5 minutes, I said. He opened the door. Danny was sitting at a metal table, hands folded. He looked up when I walked in. I didn't sit. Why didn't you tell me? I said. Tell you what? That you were drowning. That you were scared. That you needed help. He laughed. Bitter. When? Between your murder trials and my pitch meetings? We didn't talk, Victoria. We lived in the same house and we didn't talk. So, your solution was to let me think you were dead. My solution was to disappear. You thinking I was dead was an accident that became convenient. I stepped closer. Convenient. Yes, convenient. Because if I'd told you the truth, you would have tried to fix it. You would have used your prosecutor connections to dig into my debts, my mistakes. You would have made it your problem. And I didn't want to be your problem anymore. So you made me a widow instead. He looked down. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. He didn't argue. I walked to the door. Stopped. Turned back. That little girl. Olivia. Does she know? Know what? That her father is a coward who fakes deaths and abandons people? His face hardened. I'm a good father. You're a ghost playing dress up. And when she's old enough to Google your name, she's going to find out that her father is a fraud. And you're going to have to explain that. Not me. You. I knocked on the door. The bailiff opened it. Judge, Danny said. I stopped. Are you going to report me? I looked at him. This man I'd married. This stranger I'd buried. This ghost sitting in a holding room in a courthouse where I was supposed to be impartial. I don't know, I said. And I walked out. I didn't go back to the bench that day. I called in sick. Drove home. Sat in my living room with the lights off. My phone rang 6 times. Denise. My clerk supervisor. Judge Howell. I didn't answer. At 9 p.m., there was a knock at my door. I opened it. Danny was standing on my porch. How did you find my address? Public record. You're a judge. I should have closed the door. Should have called the police. Instead, I stepped aside. He walked in. Looked around. Nice place. What do you want, Danny? To explain. You already did. In court. Under oath. Not all of it. I crossed my arms. I'm listening. He sat on my couch. Uninvited. The debt wasn't just business debt. I'd gotten involved with some people. Offshore investors. They wanted returns I couldn't deliver. When I told them the company was failing, they made it clear that wasn't acceptable. They threatened you. They threatened both of us. I went still. What? They knew about you. Knew where you worked. One of them showed me a picture of you leaving the courthouse. Said it would be a shame if something happened to the DA's wife. I sat down across from him. So you left to protect me? I left to protect both of us. If I disappeared, they'd have no leverage, no reason to come after you. And you didn't think to tell me this? Would you have let me go? I stared at him. He was right. I wouldn't have. I would have reported the threats, built a case, gone after them with everything the DA's office had. And I probably would have gotten killed doing it. You should have trusted me, I said. I did trust you. I trusted you to survive without me. And you did. We sat in silence. Then he said, I saw your swearing in. Online. The press release when you became a judge. You've been watching me? From a distance. I needed to know you were okay. I buried you, Danny. You don't get to check in from a distance. I know. More silence. Then I asked the question I'd been holding since the courtroom. The body? Did you know him? The man who died? No. I told you. He was a stranger. Did you kill him? No. It was an accident. A real accident. But you let everyone think it was you. Yes. And you took out that life insurance policy 2 years before you died. He looked up sharply. I smiled. Cold. I'm a judge, Danny. I know how to read a timeline. You increased your policy to $2.3 million 2 years before your convenient death. That's premeditation. It wasn't. It was. You planned this. Maybe not the exact method, but you planned to disappear. And you set me up to benefit from it, so I wouldn't ask questions. He didn't deny it. I stood up. Get out. Victoria. Get out of my house. Now. He stood. Walked to the door. Stopped. Are you going to report me? I looked at him. This man who'd faked his death. Who'd let me grieve. Who'd built a new life while I was stuck in the wreckage of the old one. If I report you, it becomes a media circus. My career is over. Your daughter loses her father. And the people you owe money to? They'll find out you're alive. Which means we're both in danger again. So that's a no. That's a I don't know. I need time to think. How much time? As much as I need. Now get out. He left. I locked the door behind him. Sat on the floor. Put my head in my hands. And for the first time in 7 years, I cried for my husband. Not because I missed him, but because I'd never really known him at all. The next morning, I filed a formal recusal from the Reeves versus Harmon case. Submitted it to the presiding judge with a notation. Personal conflict. No details. Judge Howell took the case. Within 2 weeks, he granted Melissa full custody. Danny got supervised visitation. Standard outcome for a case involving fraud and instability. I didn't attend the hearing, but I did do something else. I hired a private investigator. Her name was Rachel Torres. Former LAPD detective, now independent. I'd worked with her on a few cases when I was at the DA's office. I need you to find someone, I said. Who? A homeless man who died in a car crash on PCH in September 2017. The crash report listed him as Daniel Reeves. But that wasn't his name. Rachel raised an eyebrow. This is about your husband. Former husband. Legally, you're still married. He's not dead. Just find him. The real victim. I need to know who he was. Rachel took the case. 3 weeks later, she called me. His name was Marcus Webb, 42 years old. From Ohio. He'd been living on the streets for about 5 years. Veteran. PTSD. No family that I could find. How do you identify him? Dental records. The coroner's office still had them on file. I had a buddy run them through the VA database. Got a hit. I closed my eyes. Marcus Webb. A real person. With a real name. Who died in my husband's car and been buried under my husband's name. Did he have anyone? I asked. A sister in Cleveland. I tracked her down. She thought Marcus had died years ago. Didn't even know he'd been in California. Does she know the truth now? No. I didn't tell her. I figured you'd want to make that call. I sat with that for a long time. Then I said, set up a meeting. I'll tell her myself. 2 days later, I flew to Cleveland. Marcus Webb's sister was named Angela. She lived in a small house in Lakewood. Mid-50s, worked as a school nurse. I sat in her living room with a cup of coffee I didn't drink and told her everything. Your brother died in a car crash in 2017. But the man driving the car let everyone believe it was him. Your brother was buried under a false name. I'm the woman who buried him. Angela stared at me. Where is he buried? Forest Lawn. In Los Angeles. Under what name? Daniel Reeves. She stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the street. I thought he was dead, she said quietly. I thought he died alone somewhere. Under a bridge. In an alley. I'm so sorry. He was a good man. Before the war. Before the PTSD. He was a good man. I believe you. She turned to look at me. What are you going to do about this? I don't know yet, but I wanted you to know the truth. And I wanted to offer to pay for a proper burial. Under his real name. And the man who let this happen? Your husband? He's not my husband anymore. Are you going to report him? I didn't answer. Angela walked over. Sat down next to me. My brother died because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And your husband took advantage of that. But reporting him won't bring Marcus back. It'll just make this a spectacle. So you don't want me to report him? I want you to do what's right for you. But for me, I just want my brother buried properly. Let him rest under his own name. I nodded. We made the arrangements together. Had Marcus Webb exhumed and reburied in Ohio. Small ceremony. Just Angela, her kids, and me. I paid for everything. And I had the name on the headstone in Los Angeles changed. It now reads, Unknown. Died September 2017. May he rest in peace. Because Danny didn't deserve to be memorialized. But Marcus Webb did. 6 months have passed since the courtroom. Danny's case is resolved. Melissa has full custody. Danny sees Olivia twice a month under supervision. I haven't reported him. Not because I forgive him, but because Angela was right. Reporting him would turn Marcus's death into a circus. And Marcus deserves peace. But I did do one thing. I filed for divorce. After 7 years of being a widow, I'm finally ending my marriage. The papers were served last week. Danny signed them without a fight. We're scheduled for a final hearing next month. Different courthouse. Different judge. I won't be there. My attorney will handle it. And when it's done, I'll finally be free. Not from grief. Not from anger. But from the lie. Last week, I was sitting in my chambers between hearings when Denise knocked. Judge, there's someone here to see you. Says it's personal. I looked up. Who? A woman named Melissa Harmon. I stood up. Send her in. Melissa walked in, nervous, holding a folder. I'm sorry to bother you, Your Honor. I know this is inappropriate. Sit down, Miss Harmon. She sat. What can I do for you? I wanted to give you this. She handed me the folder. Inside was a photo. Olivia. 6 years old. Brown hair. Danny's eyes. I thought you should see her. She's the only good thing that came from him. I looked at the photo. She's beautiful. She is. And she's smart. And kind. And she deserves better than a father who lies. She does. Melissa stood to leave. Stopped. Can I ask you something? Go ahead. Do you hate him? I thought about it. Really thought. No, I said. I don't hate him. I just don't know him. I'm not sure I ever did. She nodded. I understand that. After she left, I sat at my desk and looked at that photo for a long time. Olivia. A little girl who existed because a man faked his death and started over. I don't know what that makes her. A miracle. A mistake. A consequence. Maybe all three. That night, I went home and opened the box I keep in my closet. The box with my wedding photos. The ring. The funeral program. I pulled everything out, looked through it, and then I put it all in the trash. Not out of anger. Out of completion. Because you can't mourn someone who was never really there. My name is Victoria Mendez. I'm 41 years old. I'm a family court judge. And 7 years ago, I buried a stranger and mourned a ghost. But I'm not a widow. I never was. I'm just a woman who learned that some people would rather die than tell the truth. And some truths take 7 years and a courtroom to finally surface. The divorce is final in 3 weeks. I'll sign the papers, close the file, and move on. Not because I've forgiven Danny, but because I've finally forgiven myself. For not seeing the lie. For not asking the hard questions. For accepting the easy answer because it hurt less than the truth. I spent 7 years believing I knew what happened. I was wrong. But now I know. And knowing is enough. If this story resonated with you, if it made you think about the lies we tell ourselves or the truths we avoid, leave me a comment. Tell me, what would you have done? Would you have reported him? Would you have let it go? And if you want more stories like this, check the description for one I think you'll love just as much. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.
If you like this story, do subscribe and like and do comment to let us know what type of stories you like to hear so that we can make up those. You can also share your own stories if you want them get uploaded along with your pick.